We are reading Parshas Truma, which deals with the tabernacle making a home for God in this world, this earth. That was the role of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, making the world, not the world to come, but this world a place for God. About 30 years ago, the Lubavitcher Rebbe called one of the major emissaries, Rabbi Moshe Kotlarsky, had him called. He was in Kansas. And Rabbi Kotlarsky was told by the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Chadakov, that the Rebbe wants him to travel immediately. What does immediately mean, he asked. He says, well, if you can go now, that's what the Rebbe would want. Where does the Rebbe want me to go? He wants you to go to Curacao. Curacao is an island off of Venezuela. Curacao is the famous island that was the haven, the destination of all of those Jews who went to Japan, went through the Siberia into Japan, ultimately in Shanghai, and survived the war. But they had visas to go to Curacao. Curacao is from Dutch East Indies in the Caribbean Sea. Well, there were no tickets to go to Curacao for that night, and so he had to come back to New York and get a flight 9 o'clock the next morning. He asked Rabbi Chadakov, what am I supposed to do there? He says, well, it's undefined, but take the plates to print the Tanyas and say that you're coming to print the Tanyas. Well, I know the head of the Jewish community. I'll contact him as soon as I get there, and you're saying that the SHLIACH, the mission, will become apparent right away. I hope so. So without knowing why he was going, to whom he was going, for what purpose he was going, Rabbi Kotlarsky took the plates, the photographic plates of the holy book Tanya, with him and embarked to the middle of the Caribbean, near the coast of Venezuela, close to the equator, to a distance, to a place unknown to him, for purpose also unknown. Once he got there, he called the head of the Jewish community, a man by the name of Chaim Greenberg. Chaim Greenberg came to Curacao at the beginning of World War II. He was one of the lucky ones who was able to get to Curacao through Siberia with the rest of his family. He had a very religious grandmother, and his grandmother told him in 1942 that she wasn't going to live very long, and she made him promise several promises. One of them was that he would never marry somebody who wasn't Jewish. He was all of 5 years old at the time. The second thing she told him was that the Lubavitcher Rebbe had just come to North America, that if he ever had a question or a problem with his Yiddishkeit, he should immediately ask the Lubavitcher Rebbe for an answer. With this background, Rabbi Kotlarsky, not knowing this, came to Curacao and called Chaim Greenberg. Chaim Greenberg picked up the phone and says, yes, this is Rabbi Kotlarsky from Lubavitch. Lubavitch? You're here? It's a miracle. Come right now. He didn't know what was hitting him. He thought, who knows, they wanted to print the Tanya. As soon as he got to Chaim Greenberg's office, Chaim sat him down and told him the following story. The Jewish community of Curacao numbered several dozen families. They didn't have enough resources to make a high school for themselves. They had made a Jewish day school, but they didn't have enough children or money to produce what is needed for high school. They had a fairly good relationship with the local high school, which happened to be Catholic. That the kids would go there, but they would be free from going to any religious services. This went on for many years, until finally this year a new principal came in with a new priest, and they both decided that it was not fair for the Catholic students to have to go to catechism, and the Jewish students would not be required. From now on, we require the Jewish students to go to catechism. All the kids protested. Chaim's son said he's not going. All the kids brought in earplugs. They brought in whatever devices they needed to avoid listening to the catechism. But Chaim's son had a different plan. As soon as catechism came, he walked out of the school, walked onto the soccer field, and went around the track, knowing full well that he would be observed. The principal, eagerly waiting to see how his plan went with all the Jewish kids, counted the Jewish kids, and instead of 20 kids, there were only 19. Somebody was missing. Greenberg. Where is Greenberg? Looks out the window, sees Greenberg in the soccer field. Hey, what are you doing there? Ignores him. The principal runs down. He says, hey, get back there to the room. He says, I'm not going. He says, you must go. He says, you can't force me. He says, yes, I can. And he pushes the kid. The kid was 16 years old. He pushed him back, threw him on the floor. Well, this created an uproar. Chutzpah, a 16-year-old kid pushing around a principal. And they decided right then and there to expel the kid. Now he had no high school to go to. And now the kid is stuck. He has no place to go to school. What's the Greenberg family supposed to do with this bright youngster who's now been kicked out of school? Where's he going to go to college? How is he going to earn a living? This is a question, he said, for the Lubavitch Rebbe. Says, let me tell you a story. Why this is a miracle. My grandmother made me promise her that if I ever had a question with my Yiddishkeit, my Judaism, I would go to the Lubavitch Rebbe and ask him. And this happened yesterday, and I had this problem. I didn't know what to do. So last night, my grandmother appeared in a dream, and she says, Chaim, you promised me that whenever you'd have a problem with your Yiddishkeit, you'd go to the Lubavitch Rebbe. Why didn't you do it now? And now he says, that was last night. And now you're here. This is a miracle. Well, he says, we got to figure out what to do with your son, said Rebbe Kotlarski. And he called the Rebbe's office. The Rebbe's office responded to say that they should bring the young man to New York and find a school for him in New York. They went all through the city trying to find the best school for this young man who had done an act of self-sacrifice, gotten kicked out of school for his faith. At the end of the day, they decided that the best place was right there in Crown Heights, a block and a half away from 770, a place called Chanoch Lenar. And this Chanoch Lenar was the best place suited for this young man who had limited knowledge of Hebrew, limited knowledge of Torah. This would be the best place to get him back into the community, into the line with other kids his age, so that he could go to normal schools, normal yeshivas, and succeed. Chaim Greenberg accompanied Rabbi Kotlarski with his son, and he was so excited what he saw. Purim came, and he saw wonderful, wonderful, thousands and thousands of people enjoying the Yiddishkeit. He'd never seen anything like it. So he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, thanking him for taking care of his son so miraculously, and thanking him for giving him such a wonderful Jewish experience. Signing it, Chaim Greenberg, from a small Jew to a great Jew. The Rebbe called him that day, specially, long distance, to tell him, thank you for your thanks, for your wonderful letter, but I want you to know, I want to correct something that you write. There is no such thing as a small Jew.